I am here with AEW, all the letters in the alphabet. Tony Khan, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm very well. Thanks for having me, T.
No, thank you. Mate, you're finally here. You're finally here. There's been a lot of challenges along the way, but we're finally here.
It's going to be a great event.
Talk about how you were able to navigate the issues that have been coming up.
Well, it's been excellent. I think there's been so much great stuff. Right now, AEW's on our best run of TV I can remember in recent memory, maybe since the original Revolution. This has been fantastic, just great show after great show. And I think it's the perfect time to bring AEW Grand Slam here to Australia. It's one of AEW's biggest events in our history is Grand Slam. From the very first match on the first Grand Slam, Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson, we set the tone that this is going to be one of the most important events in wrestling. And it's our first ever time in Australia. I wanted to bring something very special and have the eyes of the entire world, the sports world, on Brisbane, on Australia, and on AEW this Saturday night. And it's going to be tremendous. It'll be on in over 150 countries all over the world in really prominent positions. And I'm very excited to bring the very best of AEW here to Brisbane. This is my first time ever in Australia, and I'm very excited about it.
What made you pick Brisbane? Because normally when people think about international tours, it's Sydney, it's Melbourne, it's Perth. It's never really a Brisbane or an Adelaide. What made you decide that Brisbane was the place you guys wanted to go?
Brisbane wanted us. Brisbane came to us and they said, we really want you. We want you to do a show here, and we think AEW would be a tremendous attraction here in Brisbane, and it's been great. This is going to be one of the biggest international events in our history. It's one of the biggest live gates already in AEW's history. In fact, I think outside of Wembley Stadium in London, this is going to be the biggest gate in AEW history.
Oh.
So it's very exciting and something really, really to hang our hat on as a business, but also as people who love wrestling and fans, the wrestling is going to be awesome. There's going to be so much good stuff. Here in AEW, we have a lot of wrestlers who've never been to Australia, who've never wrestled in Australia, and they're very excited about that. We have a number of other stars who have wrestled in Australia, but not for a long time, not for years, or in some cases, maybe even decades. Mm-hmm. And then we have a lot of top stars who are from here in Australia. People that were born here, people that have lived here, people that learned to wrestle here in Australia, went out all over the world, honed their skills, became top champions, top stars, and now they're back as part of the greatest wrestling promotion in the world. AEW is where the best wrestle, and we have the best wrestlers on the planet coming here to Brisbane this Saturday night for AEW Grand Slam Australia.
Yeah, it's got to be good that you've got the number of Aussies in your roster that you have. You're like, hey, we're going to Australia. You get to wrestle in front of your hometown, your home crowd, because people that are from America, they're like, you're from North Carolina? We're working Charlotte this week. You don't really get that if you're like, say, Toni, who doesn't really work the Gold Coast ever because she's over there.
Sure.
So that's got to be great that you've got that like handful of guys that get to have that opportunity.
It's a tremendous opportunity. We have a lot of great stars from Australia, and in particular, Timeless Toni Storm, the challenger for the AEW Women's World Championship, the former champion, is a native. She's coming home, and it's very exciting to have the former champion, Timeless Toni Storm, taking on her former protege, the Glamour Mariah May, the world champion. We were over in London for AEW All In last year, and it was such a huge grudge match. It was such a huge moment. Mariah May captured the world title in her hometown in front of fans from England. And frankly, even though Mariah May is from London, she was not the popular one that night. It was a big Toni Storm crowd. And now Timeless Toni Storm gets the homecoming. Now she has an opportunity for revenge on the person who took everything from her, the person who showed up in AEW pretending to be something she's not. Mariah May is a very accomplished wrestler. She pretended she was just a Toni Storm fan. She acted like a big supporter of Toni Storm. And actually, support was the last thing she wanted to give Toni. She acted like a friend, acted like a confidant, behaved like a protege, took everything she could get from Toni, the knowledge, the placement, the opportunities, and then when everything was right, Mariah May seized on the opportunity and she went to take everything from Toni, and she succeeded. She took Toni's spot as the top women's wrestler on the planet, and she took Toni's belt, the AEW Women's World Championship. And now Toni has an opportunity for revenge this Saturday night. It's been something that's been brewing for a long time. And we've seen Toni come back and give the performance of a lifetime, and it will take the performance of a lifetime in the ring versus the glamour Mariah May, the top wrestler on the planet, the AEW Women's World Champion.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because it's like the character Timeless Toni Storm sort of reached that arc when she lost the title, and it was sort of like, how are they going to reheat her to come back, and the whole her coming back like almost with amnesia as the Rocker Toni Storm and doing all that stuff. Absolutely, like, I love that idea, and I kept saying on our show that, like, she's not going to become timeless until she wins the title, and then she'll reveal it was she was been acting the whole time, and this was her the best performance ever. And like, Luther would be the one that would come down and give her the belt like it was an Academy Award, and she could grab the mic and go, "You love me, you really love me." But like, this different way that you did it has been good as well. Like, especially, I think it was last week on Collision when Mariah had the girl dressed up pretty much like Toni, and you've done the switch with, like, really well done, because no one really could tell that it was a switch until the head was lifted up.
Yep.
How much of a collaborative process is that with you and Toni?
It's very, very collaborative. I have a great relationship with Timeless Toni Storm. She's one of the greatest wrestlers and one of the greatest stars in Hollywood. And producers and stars have a great collaboration, and Toni Storm and Tony Khan have a great professional collaboration and work together very well. So I think Timeless Toni Storm is a brilliant actress, and she's been giving the performance of a lifetime. And right now, she's been on a great roll, but the person she's wrestling is the very top of the profession, the person who took that title, who took that place at the top of pro wrestling from Toni in the first place. And that's what makes Toni Storm versus Mariah May for the World Championship such a compelling match here in Brisbane this Saturday night at AEW Grand Slam Australia.
Yeah, you've also got her. You've got Harley, who's really come into her own over the last couple of months, mostly with promo work. Not really, like, she's had, I think it was like 2 or 3 matches in that time.
She's had great matches.
But she's
been doing a great job. Charlie's had a bunch of great matches in that time.
But the promo work and the thing, like, it had been building for a long time with her and
she's been doing great promos, but I think it's important to point out Harley works really hard. She works really hard on her wrestling, and she's gotten much better in the past year.
Yeah,
and
especially from someone who didn't really have a wrestling background. She's only really been, like, fresh into it for what, 2 or 3 years, maybe?
Yeah, it's been a couple years she's been wrestling now. She's really an amazing athlete, and what she's done for her experience level is really impressive. And I think Harley Cameron, she does so many things so well. She's a great singer. She's a great actress. She's apparently
I didn't realize as good a singer she was until she busted it out the other. I'm like, oh, she can actually sing. Oh, wow.
She's a great singer.
Yeah.
And she's a great puppeteer. She's a very talented person, but she's also become an excellent wrestler. And she's improving so fast. We just saw her pick up a huge win. We've seen her get better and better in the ring. And this is a massive opportunity for Harley Cameron in her home country in front of these fans that will believe in her. She's taking on one of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen, somebody who is so decorated, so impressive as the champion. That is Mercedes Moné, the CEO, the TBS champion, the face of the Superstation, and somebody who's won championships all over the world. Now, when you talk about the experience, I mean, Mercedes Moné's got much more experience. And I think based on that, in many ways, she would be the favorite. But there's some X factors at play here, with Harley Cameron having the support of the fans in Australia and all this momentum. And frankly, Harley's been getting better and better, faster and faster. It's going to be challenging for Mercedes to scout Harley, because Harley has put a lot on tape. She has had a lot of matches, but we've seen her getting better and better. So it's going to be really an exciting match. And I'm very pumped and fired up for Harley Cameron challenging the TBS champion, the CEO Mercedes Moné, this Saturday in Brisbane at Grand Slam Australia.
Yeah, and also, like, one of the matches that, like, people are talking a lot about, like, Copeland and Jay White and of course Toni, but like Buddy Matthews and Kazuchika Okada, that is going to be an absolute banger. That's come sort of out of nowhere.
It's been building in recent weeks.
Yeah,
and
recent
it's
weeks.
really in recent weeks we've seen Okada and Buddy have developed an intense dislike of each other. Okada,
which if you know Buddy, doesn't really take long.
Well, it's interesting. He's an interesting individual. He's and I will say I have a lot of respect for both men. I think they're both great stars, and they're very familiar with each other. I think this is going to be an excellent match, and both of them deserve that spotlight. Kazuchika Okada is probably the greatest tournament wrestler of all time. What he's been able to do in these major tournaments all over the world has been very impressive. And then this year he came to AEW, and the greatest wrestling tournament I've ever seen in my entire life, he went out and won, and that was this past year's Continental Classic. The final against Will Ospreay was amazing. The semifinal match, Okada against Ricochet, was tremendous. Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher had an insane match in the semifinals. Then you go back to the Gold League and the Blue League. Look at all the great matches. Look at all the great stories going into the last weekend of the tournament around Christmas. It was a phenomenal tournament, a phenomenal performance by a great champion, and that is why Okada is the Continental Champion. And Buddy Matthews has been a great champion in AEW. We've seen him as part of the World Trios Champions. And now, as part of the Hounds of Hell, he's got an opportunity here in his home country in front of these great fans here in Australia to walk out in Brisbane this Saturday night as the AEW Continental Champion.
Yeah, I was in Melbourne when he won the Cruiserweight title, and I can imagine it'll be the same sort of like feeling in the crowd as when he does it there. So I'm really looking for to feel that energy again that was when he came out, because it's an Aussie boy. So like we're always going to back our Aussie boys. One guy that is like Aussie boy is Kyle Fletcher, and I love the way that you guys have really showcased how good he is over the last X amount of months with his matches with Will in the tournament, everything like that.
He was fantastic in the Continental Classic. His match with Will Ospreay at Full Gear was outstanding. And then both of them went into the Continental Classic, and they had so many classic matches against other great wrestlers. Kyle's performance in the tournament was amazing. He went 4-1 in the Blue League. The only wrestler who beat him was Mark Briscoe, and we just saw Kyle avenge that loss last week on Collision in a classic main event. So Kyle's been able to go out. The wrestlers who've beaten him, he's been able to go out and beat them, even the score. And nobody's gotten the best of Kyle Fletcher in recent memory. Kyle Fletcher's wrestling at the top of this profession, and it's so exciting to have him come here into his home country, Australia, with all the momentum, taking on two of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life, Will Ospreay and the legendary Kenny Omega, teaming up at AEW Grand Slam. This is a big deal, and to have them teaming up against Kyle Fletcher in his home country and another man who's gone out and is one of the hottest wrestlers on the planet and has to be in the consideration for and that's the international champion, Konosuke Takeshita, who's been defending the title all over the globe. He's been in title fights all over the planet, countries all over the world against some of the best wrestlers, and he's picked up huge wins against the biggest names in AEW.
With Gabe.
Yeah, he's had great. I mean, Kenny Omega had a great match with Gabe, and it's been great to have Kenny Omega back. I think, referring to Takeshita's picked up huge wins over Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricochet, Ishii, and all the top names. And then remember that Takeshita has beaten Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
And when you see that Takeshita is on this kind of role as the international champion right now, this team of Fletcher and Takeshita, this thing is amazing. These two are so hot. And what a fantastic matchup it is to have two wrestlers that are clicking right now and look like they have really good chemistry as a team, Fletcher and Takeshita, going against two of the best individual wrestlers I've ever seen in my entire life, Will Ospreay, the aerial assassin, and Kenny Omega. This is such a great collection of international pro wrestlers in one match, representing 4 different countries and having the international champion in this match. It's so exciting. It's so unique. And I am really excited for that tag team match, Ospreay and Omega versus Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher.
I know you're only in Australia for a short time, but is there any chance you be able to get out to scout anything else that's going on the weekend?
Well, we're going to host some great wrestlers here, and I'm excited to have some wrestlers coming in and working for us. We've got a great international crew, wrestlers from all over the planet coming in for the show, and it's going to be tremendous.
All right. Tony, can't wait to see what happens on Saturday night. Please get some sleep, because I know you're probably running on fumes yourself, because I know Cope was talking, he straight off from the show, straight to the plane, straight to here, still awake. You've got to be running on the exact sort of same fumes, mate. Go and get some rest, and we'll see you on Saturday night. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really nice connecting with you, and I have a lot of respect for you and your friends here and what you guys have been able to do, what you've been able to build here in Australia. There's so many great wrestlers that have trained here, and I know you're very familiar with this scene, and you've got all the street cred and legit credentials. So it's really nice to do an interview with someone like you that is so well versed in the pro wrestling scene, particularly here in Australia. And I'm excited to be here for the first time ever.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.